One of my colleagues came out as transsexual in the office before they came out amongst their family and friends. Now, what does that tell you about a culture, right?
Yeah.
VMware, to describe it to me, I've got a friend actually texted me this morning who's interviewing to join VMware, and he's sort of saying, what's the culture like? And, you know, you kind of want to say it's really quite nice. It's a horrible thing to say. It's like, it's the worst word ever, right?
Yeah.
It's just, but people are supportive. We celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in a way that no one else goes. And this is what I mean, and I know that sounds a bit cliched, but I've actually been asked to be on the boards of other companies, not for my tech props, but because of having worked at VMware and our reputation
okay.
for a diverse and inclusive workplace that,
Yeah.
just gets stuff done. And it really is, I don't know, it's a fabulous place to be. And the best way to describe it was we had a campaign a few years ago now called Dare, right? And Dare at VMware said, dare to bring your whole self to work. Don't put on a special face to come in the office. Don't put on your work face. Come into the office the same as you come into the office. You walk into your house and talk to your family. Because if you're not putting up that facade, that's a lot of effort to put on all the time. You can actually get your job done, and we'll accept you as you are, right? That transformed us as a company. And one of my favorite bits about that is one of my colleagues came out as transsexual in the office before they came out amongst their family and friends.
Goodness.
Right? So they would turn up to the office as a woman and then go back home and change and sort of hide it from their private life. Now, what does that tell you about a culture, right?
Yeah.
And that to me was groundbreaking. And I've learned so much that I didn't know before when I joined VMware. Up until then, it wasn't really something that ever dawned on me. I've got daughters, but no one ever spoke to me about DEI. It wasn't a thing. And it's become so much part of what we do that it's just a fabulous place to work. So I come here and I'm myself. And that's what I really like about VMware. I don't have to put on a face. And I had lunch. It was really cool. I had lunch on Monday with a graduate that joined us a few years ago and stayed with us for a while. And she moved off, gone to work for another company. And she sort of said the one thing she misses is the culture at VMware. She said the openness isn't there at the company she's at. She said there's no way she could just sit down and have a chat with a VP like me. It just doesn't, didn't exist. And those barriers don't exist at VMware. We're a bunch of people trying to get stuff done, and it's great.
I've heard you saying before that part of your success is down to your ability to be able to communicate things in layman's terms, communicate complex concepts into digestible narratives. So what is the art of good communication about complex things in the tech world?
Well, so again, it comes back to that first word I started with, empathy, right? The first question I ask when someone asks me, as I do daily, present to so-and-so, as I'm going to do after this call, I want to know about them. I want to know what drives them. I want to know what's in their heads. Where are they coming from? What's their level of understanding? Because I want to communicate to them at their level in ways that mean and add value to them. Right? It's that simple, really. It's taught in sales schools as pain-based selling or this other kind of wonderful stuff. But basically, it's understanding your audience. I think that's the fundamental piece. Standing up and just giving the pitch you've been taught, because that's the pitch you've been taught, doesn't land properly.
Sure.
Understanding your audience, understanding what they want, understanding what they want to come out of that room feeling afterwards, and then working out how you impart that to them is the fundamental, I think, to good comms, to good presenting, to good anything. And so, my question when anyone asks me to do a presentation is, what's the one thing you want those people to leave that room thinking? And they go, well, I'd like these 7 things on it. No, I'll give you 1, then we'll get to 3. And then and that's basically it, right? So anything after that is going to be superfluous and highlights. But basically,
yes.
So that's really that's the fundamental of it. That's where I'll start, and then I'll build out from there. And it's then about storytelling, and that's the other important thing. I think people don't get in communicating, and I learned very early on it's about storytelling. And I think I've said before, the most effective communicators I've ever seen are stand-up comics. You will sit and watch stand-up comics for hours. They don't have PowerPoint. Dave Gorman does, right? And I think in reality, someone who can stand up for an hour or 2 and hold your attention, and that stuck with me fairly early on. I went, okay, fine, those are good presenters. Okay, how to become that? So I went and did a stand-up comedy course, which was quite fun.
Really?
And Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Did a 3-day residential stand-up comedy course, which finished with us going and actually doing a 5-minute set at a local comedy club cold. It was quite weird,
Wow.
but what that did was that taught me about, understanding and reading an audience, but it taught me about constructing a story. It taught me about callbacks. If you want to see a really good example of that, Stuart Lee is just an
Oh, yes.
absolute master of this. So callbacks are really important. Callbacks are when you're doing a presentation and then you make a callback to something you said earlier, which kind of references and starts linking things together. So
Sure.
it's almost like you set it up. Whereas
Yeah.
most people do a presentation and here's the next slide and here's the next slide and here's it's like
Yeah,
and it's those clever sort of winky eye callbacks to what you did before, the audience start to connect with and it starts to join up in their heads. That's what really helps. And so to learn good comms and good presentations, I watch stand-up comedians. I watch people like Stuart Lee. I watch others, and I work out what I can do. And then from there on, once you understand where someone's coming from and the level of understanding, translating something technical into their level of understanding shouldn't be that hard. Most of the time, I'm trying to work out how to explain it to my mother. Is a good way to do it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really. But it's talking on their level. I mean, we present at the VMware user group annually. I always do it, and at various places around the world. And there, I always remember that I'm talking to people that are in the seat that I was in the 90s. They're out there, they're in the trenches, they're building systems, they're trying to keep things up, they're running all that kind of stuff every day. So in that talk, I'm very much aimed at them and what they'd want to get. And what they're doing in that room is they're saying to themselves, okay, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn some cool tech stuff. I'm also here to learn what I should be doing with my career and what I need to learn about to be around still and valid in my job in 5 years' time. That's what you're imparting there. That's a different to when I'm presenting to a CFO or I'm presenting to a CEO or a CIO or whatever. So that's the point. It's that ability to learn what your audience wants.
Yeah, sure. I'm very impressed you went on a stand-up comedian course. Any aspirations to do a tour or anything, Joe? Or
No,
ever do it again?
not at all. One of my I was in the sixth form with Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr was in the same year as me at school. Yeah, he was not a stand-up comedian or anything like that when he was at school. He was the quiet guy that did classics in the corner, and he sort of came into it later in life. I think a lot of people do. So no, I don't think I've got a want to be I'm not searching for that, to be honest. But it was just something that enabled me to understand comms better.